Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Can everyone hear me okay? I'll try not to move. A bit loud. I don't know how to turn it up. I'm as close as I can get. You might have to move this way. Okay, so my name's Jade. I'm from the Centre for Applied Autism Research at the University of Bath. And today I'm going to talk to you just about some of our research and initiatives that we do at the university. And the idea of all of what we do is that it's applied research so that it helps people's real life and helps autistic people participate in life and society as best as possible. So, yes, that's that. So I'll just tell you what I'm going to tell you about to begin with, just to give you an overview. So it's kind of like a whistle-stop tour of a few different things that we do that might be of interest to some of you or some people you might know. There are some flyers around on the seats that have got all of the links that I'm going to show you today, so you don't need to write anything down. Just make sure you grab a flyer. If you can't find one, just ask me at the end. So I'm going to be talking first about the University of Bath Autism Summer School. That is a summer school for autistic students who are still at school or college or something similar to that, who are thinking of going to university and want to know what it will be like. Then I'll talk about the Bath Employment Spring School for Autism, BESA, which is an initiative for autistic students at university or recent graduates to help them think about employment after university and help sort of support them into sort of either being in work or looking for work. I'll then talk to you about the Ambassadors for Autism scheme. I won't explain that now, I'll just explain it at the time. I'm also running a study about well-being for freshers, so new university students who are autistic and not autistic. So I'll run through what that is as well. I'll tell you about how you can join our research participants database if you want to and receive our newsletters about what we're up to. And I'll give you a list at the end of all the websites, so it'll be exactly the same as what's on the flyers. Okay, so for the University of Bath Summer School, it's been running for about 7 years now. It's really successful. So anybody, any student who is autistic, has a formal diagnosis, who's considering going to university, so you could be sort of 16, 17, 18 years old-ish, can come along to the summer school. You don't have to be considering going to Bath, just considering going to university, or perhaps have already got a place and just want a bit of a taster of what it's going to be like. So it's a summer school because it's a residential thing that we do over 3 whole days and 2 nights. So the students stay in university accommodation on those 2 nights together in sort of shared flats as if they would when they actually go to university, so they can have a proper taster of what it will actually be like to live on campus. So there's a focus on 3 aspects in the summer school. So work, rest and play. So work is obviously focused on academic stuff that you do at university to actually learn. So they get some taster lectures, seminars and group work. Rest is sort of learning to take care of yourself and your well-being at university. So that includes the part where they stay on campus and learn how to sort of live with other people and sort of going for dinner and learning how to sort of just take care of yourself while you're at university. And then play is the more sort of leisure activities that they do. So these do vary, but they include going down into town and looking around Bath and the Roman baths and going out for food and things like that. So we had more than this this year, actually. We've just recently run the summer school at the end of August, and we had about 38 students this time. And then there's plenty of staff on hand throughout the whole thing, so they're there day and night to look after the students and be there if there's any sort of pastoral issues. And all the sessions that they do are sort of delivered in small groups throughout those 3 days. So obviously we evaluate these programs to make sure they're actually helpful. So we get some student feedback about what they enjoyed about the summer school. And I'm just going to read you a few quotes. Sorry, the screen's smaller than I expected to look at. So we asked them what they found most helpful about the summer school. So one of the students said that trying out the accommodation was really helpful so that they could figure out what it was that they needed to take with them when they went to university. Getting to know other autistic people and talking to them, so like meeting other people like them in a university setting. I enjoyed learning about the different methods to reduce anxiety and stress. I also had a great enjoyment learning about employment and, of course, being in an autism space. So people really liked being with other autistic people in a space where they felt like they were understood and supported. this person liked the ways in which the more positive aspects of autism were sort of highlighted during the summer school. So they were saying that, like, generally in life, they're always taught how to deal with their difficulties, but that there was quite a focus on how to sort of bring out the strengths and focus on strengths at university. And that was really important for quality of life, so that they enjoyed that part. I'm not going to read both of these. I'm just going to give you a sort of overview. Of the first one, probably, is a bit more, it's quite hard-hitting. So this parent was feeding back on how their child had found the summer school. And they said, it's hard to overstate how difficult this young person's circumstances were. She emerged from the summer school looking so different, with a sparkle in her eye. She's returned with renewed determination and clarity on her higher education choices and some new strategies, more confidence in how she can manage the social and cultural aspects of university. So the parents were basically saying that they'd noticed a big change in their children once they'd been, and often there was quite an attitude shift towards going to university. A lot of people sort of realised that it really was for them and felt more excited and more confident about going after the summer school. So, if you or someone you know might be interested in registering to go to the summer school, perhaps not next year, but maybe the year after or the year after that, you can email us, autismsummerschool@bath.ac.uk. Remember, you don't need to take this because it's on the flyers, or you can ask me for it after. And I'll also show all the details on the screen at the end, so you can take a picture or something. These are some photos that the students take on their play side of the summer school. So when they go down into Bath, they take pictures, and there's a prize then for the best pictures. So this is taken very seriously. There's a WhatsApp group where they send all their pictures, and I think this year we had hundreds to choose from, so it was a bit overwhelming on the last day trying to pick a winner. But these are some of nice ones, including one of Mark Brosnan, Professor Mark Brosnan, who's our centre director at CAR, enjoying with the students there too. Okay, so I'll move on now to the Bath Employment Spring School for Autism. Sorry, I forget all the acronyms. So this is, again, another free event. So the summer school's free, the employment school is free. For autistic students and recent graduates, they do have to have gone to university / be at university to come to BESA. The idea is to help with the transition. So the summer school helps with the transition from sort of school or college to university, and then the idea of BESA is that it helps with the transition from university to employment or any other kind of activity that it might be doing after university, like apprenticeships and that kind of thing. So it's organised by us at CAR, and it runs at CAR at the University of Bath, but we are supported very generously by JP Morgan, so that we're able to host this. So they host part of it at their campus in Bournemouth. So just to highlight some of the feedback from the students about BESA, basically you can just see that there's very high ratings for how helpful they found the employment school, for things like improving their attitude towards university, and I think this means more having gone to university that they feel better about what that means for their future. Research is, I think that was to do with taking part, like they had a better feeling of taking part in research if they wanted to. That the information and the programme of BESA on the day was really helpful, and that they enjoyed the programme. So we run a few different parts during those 2 days to cover a few aspects of employment. Obviously, it's quite a lot to go through. In the information, if you follow some of the links I'll show you, you can see like a structure from this year, so you can get an idea of exactly what they do. But I'll just give an overview. So a lot of the students enjoyed the practical workshops, which included chatting to some employers and networking with those employers. And then at that point, they could find out about what those employers were already doing or could offer them as accommodations if they were to try and get a job with that employer. And then the students also had the chance to hear from a lot of different autistic adults who were in employment with various companies and like sectors. So we have police officers come and talk who are autistic, people working in banking and finance. It's quite a variety of people that come and talk, and that it's really helpful for them to sort of relate to these people, hear from their stories of sort of the choices they made and why they felt that might be helpful to them. So Kim's story, Kim works at JP Morgan, is powerful as it shows there's always hope. Speaking to autistic people reminds me I'm not alone, was one of the quotes from the students. Personal experiences of autism in employment were fascinating and helped guide my view on when to discuss the diagnosis. So this was regarding when you might choose to disclose your autism diagnosis, because obviously there's not a fixed point where you might do that. You might choose not to at all. You might disclose immediately upon application or later in the recruitment stage. So they do discuss that too in the employment school. And then some of the students made positive comments regarding how they felt after BESA about their prospects for the future in terms of employment. So it's encouraged me to see others like myself who've made it, and I'm very impressed by JP Morgan's support system sufficiently that I'm considering a placement there. I look forward to finding an employer who celebrates who I am. So these are just some nice comments about BESA. So again, if you're interested in BESA or you know someone who might be, this is the employment school. You can email us, besa@bath.ac.uk. Again, I'll show these details at the end, so you don't need to write them down. Okay, so I said I'd talk about our Ambassadors for Autism initiative, and this is stemming from some research that I've done with Dr. Katie Morass at CAR. So I'll just very briefly outline that, and then I'll talk about the Ambassadors scheme. So I've been working for the last couple of years on a project aiming to adapt interviews for autistic people. So these are any important interviews, such as our main focuses are the police and the criminal justice system, so interviews in those settings, employment interviews, and then health and social care consultations. So any sort of formal setting where you're being asked questions and you need to give answers, and that might affect your sort of care or service you receive afterwards. So we were looking at how the interviews could be adapted. And we also kind of have a special focus on the criminal justice system based on some of the work Katie's done in the past. So we are working quite closely with Avon and Somerset Police and some other police forces to adapt other parts, so not just the interviews, but other really important parts of the criminal justice system. Unfortunately, autistic people are overrepresented in the criminal justice system, usually as victims or witnesses, so it's a really important thing that police can deal with people in an appropriate way and keep them safe. So, as well as our work on interviews, we're also looking at how custody can be adapted. This is also with some collaborators in Nottingham. So we're changing really quite straightforward stuff, like when you go, if you're ever in custody for any reason, so say someone has been arrested, they're usually asked if they have any physical health problems, a mental health problem, or a learning disability, and none of those is autism. So we're saying you should probably ask that question explicitly. Do you have an autism spectrum condition, or some wording to that effect, to try and get people to disclose, and also to encourage people to disclose by making sure they know what accommodations you can make in the custody setting once they are aware of your diagnosis. So we're hoping that by doing this kind of thing in custody, we can improve the clarity of the information that people receive when they are in custody, which makes them obviously better able to access justice. And we're hoping that it will improve safety as well. And part of that is adapting the cells, so changing things in the cells to make them less sensory overwhelming, such as changing the colours of the walls, doing something about noise, that kind of thing in the cells. So from this kind of work where we've been experimentally sort of testing what changes to interviews help people recall more information or give better answers in interviews, we've then translated this into some real world sort of applications. So basically what we do is services and employers can become an ambassador for autism, so they get a certificate saying that they are an ambassador for autism, certified by us at CAR, by they sort of pledge to make an adaptation to what they're doing. So if this was an employer, they would be pledging to make adaptations to the recruitment process. We're trying to make sure this sort of covers the span of the recruitment process, so making the job description clearer, all of those bits clearer, but then obviously the interview is one of our sort of primary focuses. So getting them to change the way they ask a question. Just an example, a common job interview question is, tell me about yourself. From that question, you have to deduce exactly what the interviewer wants from you. And what we're saying is perhaps you should just ask what you want to know, and then people will be able to give their best response. So instead of tell me about yourself, perhaps tell me some of your skills that are relevant to this role, tell me some of your experience that's relevant to this role, more specific questions, basically. So we've got some ambassadors from a range of services, though, because this kind of adaptation can really help in a lot of services, particularly medical services. So anywhere where you're being asked questions and need to give answers to help someone make a diagnosis or to help someone treat you, you need to make these kind of adaptations to make sure the communication is really clear and everyone's understanding each other. So we've got some ambassadors, quite a few in Wales at the moment. So Citizens Advice in Swansea MPT. So they've become ambassadors by changing the way that they ask questions for everybody, but also encouraging people to disclose so that they can get further adaptations as well. And there's a few more health boards, and we've got a lot more employers just starting up now with this because we ran a workshop recently where they could sign up. So there's a few more coming. And don't write any of this down, please, it's all on the flyers. Just to say that there's a few opportunities to get involved in the Ambassadors for Autism scheme if you're interested in any capacity. So you can see a list of our current ambassadors and get further information in the first link, which is also on the flyer. If you've used an ambassador service that you know of, might be unlikely at the moment because it's quite new, you can give feedback on your experience in the second link. We're inviting autistic people, their friends, families, advocates to feedback to us on the kinds of services they'd like to see in the kind of adaptations they'd like to see in services. So a big one people have picked when they've done this survey is medical, but you could also think of other services like social support, benefits, that kind of thing. So you can give your feedback on the links there. That's the middle one. Employees or people who are searching for work can tell us what kind of adaptations they would like at work on the last but one. And students at university can tell us the kind of adaptations they want to see at university on the last one. But these are all on the flyers. Please, if you can't get one, just ask someone and we'll find you one. Okay, this is just some information about the study I'm running. If you know anyone who's a fresher at Bath or Bristol, who's autistic, preferably, we can recruit them into this study about well-being, and there's some information here, and that's also on the flyers. I'm not going to go over it too much. If anyone has any questions about any of this, though, do approach me. So just to finish off by telling you about the database. So anyone in the UK, doesn't matter if you're autistic or not, any age, you can sign up your kids as well if you want to, can sign up to the CAR research database. So that is a database where you would be informed of research studies that are recruiting people, and you can take part in them if you want to. There is no obligation to ever take part in any of the studies, so you can sign up and just ignore all the emails forever, or you can take part in lots of studies. It's totally up to you. The studies are conducted online, so they can be done remotely from anywhere in the UK, or in person at the university, but that will always be specified, so you can decide if you want to take part based on that as well. And then at that point, you can also opt in to get our newsletter, which is not very frequent. It's maybe 3 or 4 times a year, but it sort of gives you an update of what we're up to. Okay, that's all the links, and they're on the flyers, but if anyone hasn't got one, please do let me know and I will grab you one. Thanks for listening.